The following is a Candlepin Stars and Strikes rebroadcast featuring some of our most memorable programs.
WNDS Sports and Tri-State Megabucks present Candlepin Stars and Strikes.
Oh, look at this. Look at this! He got it! Ready for a spare!
Candlepin Stars and Strikes is sponsored in part by Washington Toyota Dodge Nissan. Looks good.
Looks good! That's good to go! It's a
Candlepin Stars and Strikes is produced in conjunction with the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. And now your hosts, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to Park Place Lanes here in Windham, New Hampshire, and another edition of Candlepin Stars and Strikes. I'm Doug Brown. Dan Murphy once again is off this Sunday, and we're happy that you could be with us. It's semifinal week here on Stars and Strikes, and we think we've got a terrific match left for you here as we have three bowlers remaining on this series. As we move toward the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions, only 2 spots remain, and we're going to settle one of them in the next couple of weeks here. So let's meet our 2 bowlers for today's show. First of all, our number 5 seed from Pembroke, New Hampshire, Kevin Davis. Kevin has won 2 consecutive weeks here on the program. 2 weeks ago, he threw an outstanding 429 to knock off Rich Hallberg. And then last week, struggled a 348, but that was good enough to beat Dan LaPlume. Kevin Davis's roll-off score, a 613, good enough for the number 5 seeded spot coming into this series. And Kevin's opponent today, as he goes for his 3rd straight win, is a guy who has been in every single Tournament of Champions that we've had so far, all 7 of them, and he's trying to win these next couple of weeks to ensure his 8th consecutive appearance in the Tournament of Champions. Paul Berger from Hopedale, Massachusetts, who finished 2nd in this roll-off series with a score of 631. Paul from Hopedale, Massachusetts, and this will be his 25th appearance here on Stars and Strikes. In singles competition, he has an outstanding record of 16-8. We will have $70 in the bonus ball contest at the end of the hour, but it is semifinal week, and we've got a great match shaping up between Kevin Davis and Paul Berger, and we'll get it started. Best 3 strings total pinfall when we come back. Don't go away. It's been the Kevin Davis story the last 2 weeks, coming up from the number 5 spot, beating Rich Hallberg with the big 429 2 weeks ago, and then last week winning by 6, a very tight match against Dan LaPlume, getting a couple of marks late to win it and then having to sweat out the final box. So today, into the semifinals goes Kevin Davis against our number 2 seed Paul Berger. The winner of this one faces our number 1 seed Tim Lipke next Sunday right here on the Winds of New England, and the winner of that match will be our 5th qualifier to the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions, our 8th annual event.
Derek, come to the desk, please. Derek.
We saw a lot of leaves like this last week. There were not a lot of spare opportunities in that match between Kevin Davis and Dan LaPlume.
All set, Derek. Thank you.
And Kevin starts with a 6. Well, he had a 6-box last week, as did Dan LaPlume. That was just the kind of day it was for both of them. Missing the head pin this time, but probably a better leave. The 1, 2, 7, and 10 with wood. Nope. So 2 open boxes for Kevin Davis and an early opportunity for Paul Berger. This is Paul's 2nd attempt this season to win his way through to the Tournament of Champions. He was with us back in November. He'll start with a spare leave here on the 4-pin. The delayed 9-pin drop. When Paul was here back in November, he beat Joe Tavernese and Dan LaPlume before finally losing in the semifinals to Dan Broder, who went on to qualify for the Tournament of Champions back in November. We've had 7 Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions events, and Paul has been in all 7 of them. Last year he was the #1 seed and lost to Chris Sargent in the finals. And Paul is off to an early lead here with back-to-back spares. And Kevin Davis mixes them for the strike. A little delay on the back row there, but Kevin finally got the mix he was looking for. The 7 and 8. Or rather the 8 and 9 collapsing at the end. Oh yes, great shot. Spare on strike for Kevin Davis. Off target with the first ball, but this one was perfect. Nice recovery after a 6 and an 8 to start the match. Paul Berger strike on spare. Take that, says Paul. 3 marks in a row to start the match. 1-2 pocket hit that time. And in the pocket again, maybe a little heavy, but broke it up pretty nicely. The 4 and the 7, that wood may be a problem.
Michelle Manzano from the desk, please.
You can't really tell from that angle that you're looking at, but the wood is more in front of the 4-pin, and it is indeed a roadblock. So Paul will be open for the first time today, but 66 through 4. Now Kevin Davis. And almost. He was working on a spare. Looking for his 3rd mark in a row. And there it is. So the answer from Kevin Davis. Just catching the head pin, and wow, he takes an extra pin or 2. He almost had a strike again. Another 9 drop. He drive this back? Yes, indeed. 4 marks in a row. And Paul Berger is right through the center. Paul is from Hopedale, Massachusetts. He and his wife Paula have 2 sons, Damon and Alex. Paul works as the Director of Purchasing at Stratus Computer. And we've been joking over the years that we could call the Tournament of Champions the Paul Berger Invitational, because he's been in it every year. There will be one more opportunity after this series for bowlers to qualify for the Tournament of Champions. We'll have one more regular season series after this one ends. And Paul does not carry the 7-pin. He can't believe it. He thought that he had enough down there to take care of it. $10. So Kevin Davis should take the lead with this spare fill. After next week, by the way, we will go into our annual
mixed doubles rotation. We'll have 4 weeks of mixed doubles action for you here on Stars and Strikes. We always have a lot of fun with that. We hope you do too. Won't be long now. We'll be talking about the state tournament as well. The New Hampshire State Candlepin Championships to be held on our Saturday show at the end of the season. I'll have more on that in the weeks to come. Kevin Davis will be shooting at the 3 and the 9, and there's a piece of wood in front that would not have been in the way particularly, but it's being cleared away anyway by Cindy Sissom. Kevin looking for his 5th mark in a row. No. And an even 100 through 7 for Kevin Davis. And he has the lead now, as you see, by 6. Dan Murphy taking a little break for those of you who might be joining us a little late. Not with us during this series. Very happy, though, that Tanya Murphy is here to keep the big computer scoreboard for us and help you out at home, keep track of what's going on. Oh, I thought, as Kevin did, that he had room to clip the 2 and the piece of wood, but he got it right in between. So Dan's daughter, Tanya Murphy, working the computer scoreboard, and as always, working the big scoreboard here at Park Place Lanes for the bowlers and the fans here, Cindy Sissom. And Paul Berger has a 9 drop, leaving the 5. Spare in the 7th. Paul trying to retake the lead. Each bowler now with 3 spares and a strike to this point. And Paul does retake the lead with the 7 fill. And maybe possibilities here. The 7, 8, and 10 with lots of wood. Let's see. No. Everything but the 7. So it'll be a 10, but Paul has regained the lead by 3. And here's what happened on that spare attempt. Just nothing got over into the corner for the 7-pin, even with all that wood. The 8-pin went right behind it. It's a funny game, Candlepin Bowling. 2 weeks ago, Kevin Davis averaged 143. Last week, he averaged 116. And he won both matches. And he has another $6, his 2nd of this game. For the spare, yes, great shot. 4 horsemen plus the 9-pin. Don't see that made very often without wood. Tough shot. The 2-pin hung around to go get the 9. Well, Kevin pulled that ball, but he got away with it a little bit. A 6 fill and a 130. May not be good enough for the lead here, though, after 1. Paul Berger gets the extra pin to fall. Looked for a moment like the 7 might go, and then the 8 went over. This wood appears that it will drive into the corner, but let's see. Yep, no problem there for Paul. So a spare in the ninth, and Paul will certainly retain his lead here at the end of one. Don't forget our bonus ball contest coming up at the end of the hour. $70 on the line. Just 4 on the spare for Paul. Well, Paul will have the lead, but it won't be a big lead. In fact, it'll be just 4. A 134 for Paul Berger to a 130 for Kevin Davis. Good match going. Back with game 2 and details on our bonus ball contest in a minute. Paul Berger will have a spare leave to start game 2. And he's got it. Just got it. A little extra body English on that one. Mark number 6 for Paul. And he's off target, but he gets away with it with a 7 drop. The 1, 8, and 10, makeable with the wood. Let's see. No, nothing for the 8 pin. And it's still there. Kevin Davis now. Kevin's fiance Amber is here, and I know that she'd want me to pass along a hello to her son, Adam. And Kevin has a strike. Not exactly the way you draw it up, and Kevin with a little sheepish smile as he moves over to lane 31, but he will take it. It looked like a 4 horseman on the left side as he missed the head pin, and then all of a sudden everything collapsed toward the middle. Second strike for Kevin. In the pocket again. Boy, I'll tell you, if that 8 pin had fallen forward, he might have had a double. And the spare. There on strike for Kevin Davis. He's picked up quite a following here the last couple of weeks. Enthusiastic response from the crowd. And of course, Paul Berger's following has been building up over many years here with all the great work he's done, and he fires back with an immediate strike. Look out. Ooh, that looked like it could have been a double also, but turned out to be kind of a thin hit. Gave it a try, the 4, 7, and 10. So Paul is marked both times on lane 32 in this game. In fact, of his 7 marks, 6 of them have been on lane 32. Kevin Davis now on a spare. Oh, the 1, 8, 9. Going to work it out as best he can here. And he'll take 7. Boy, Kevin has struggled a little bit pinning in this match. He's had 2 6s, now a 7, and 2 8s. That's really the difference in the match right now. He trails by 9. And now a half Worcester. A little full on that shot as well. And another 6. 3 6 boxes now for Kevin Davis, but the lead is still just 13 for Paul Berger rather, and we will take a break and be back on Candlepin Stars and Strikes after this word. Paul Berger ready to get back to work. There's his record here. Just phenomenal. No spare this time on the 3 and the 6. Mentioned all the appearances that Paul has made in the Tournament of Champions. He does have one title to his credit. Of course, he has always talked about wishes that he had done better in the Tournament of Champions, but it's kind of like taking the theory of getting here on the program one step further. If you get to the Tournament of Champions every year, that's something in and of itself. I mean, winning the thing every year would be nearly impossible, but he does have one title to his credit. Thought he had another good shot at it last year coming in as the number 1 seed, but Chris Sargent was the hot bowler a year ago and took it. Paul trying to get back there again for the 8th year in a row. Takes a 10 box. Kevin Davis from Pembroke, New Hampshire. Right in the pocket. Nothing touched the 7 pin though. And he slides by. Somehow got it between the 7 pin and that piece of wood in the channel. And again, same spot. Kevin tries the Brooklyn side. He's got another. Oh, this is going to go. Thought he had another 9-pin drop, but this time he carries the 5-pin for the strike. Well, we've talked about this many times. Miss a single pin for a spare, and then you know the next ball is going to be a good one. And it was a strike. And Paul Berger answers with one of his own. Three strikes for Paul. 3 for Kevin as well. And how about this leave? The 3, 9, and 10 with no wood. Did a nice job on the 3 and 10. So again, Paul marks on lane 32 and not on 31. Kevin off the head pin. This is on a strike. And he does not convert. The lead right now, 14 for Paul Berger. But a chance here for Kevin Davis to hang close as he's opposite a 9 box. And once again, pulling it left. And the 8. So that makes the lead 15 now as we move to the final 2 here in game 2. And Paul Berger has another strike. Boy, he has figured out lane 32. There's no question about that. This is the 10th, that was the 10th box that Paul has thrown on lane 32, and he has 8 marks over there in the 10 boxes he's thrown. Now, meanwhile, over here on lane 31, this is the 10th box over here, and he has only 1 mark on lane 31. Going for his second now, and misses the single. Wow. So he'll take the 10 and a 132 for a 2-game total of 266. Kevin needs to make a shot here. You don't want to be down by 20 or more to Paul Berger going into the 3rd game. And he'll need a mark to avoid that scenario. Brooklyn side hit, a solid one, leaving the 5-pin. Kevin missed his last single. But he does not miss this one. And that's a big shot in the 10th. His 9th mark. Each bowler with 9 marks to this point. Again, pulls that first ball to the left, but he gets away with it with an 8 fill, a 119 for Kevin, and a 2-game total of 249. So Paul Berger in the lead by 17 with 1 game to go on Stars and Strikes. Already 4 bowlers have qualified for the 8th annual Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions to be held in just a few months here on Stars and Strikes. Bob Kelly, our top seed right now, with a 410. Joe Ashline got in a few weeks ago with a 406. Rich Clark and Dan Broder have already punched their tickets into the tournament. But as you see down at the bottom, 2 spots still open. And perhaps one of these guys here today or Tim Lipke next week will earn their way in, and then we'll only have 1 spot remaining. Kevin Davis with some catching up to do if he wants to make it, and he'll start with a spare leave. And does not convert it. $10 for Kevin. Oh my. That ball a little thin. It looked for a moment like it could be a spare leave, and then it got worse. The 7 and 8, but will this wood cover it? I don't think so. Let's see. No. Neither one. I was a little worried about the 7-pin, but I thought maybe one of them would go down. So it's 2 open frames clicking off for for Kevin Davis, and Paul knows he's got to put a score up there for Kevin knows he's got to put a score up there for Paul Berger to shoot at, and the wood betrayed him that time, and Paul comes back with a strike. Wow. That's 4 strikes now in the last 5 boxes that Paul has thrown on lane 32. But here on lane 31, he has not solved it at all. Paul has 10 marks, and 9 of them are on lane 32. 6 fill on the strike. all 5 of Paul's strikes have been on lane 32 as well. His lead is now 21. Could have been a lot worse for Kevin Davis with Paul throwing a strike up there. And Kevin looking for the mix, doesn't get it. And the 2-6 with no wood. Another 9. The winner of this match to face Tim Lipke next week in the finals for $1,000 and a spot in the Tournament of Champions. Wow, Kevin moved the 2-pin but did not knock it over. He has the 2 and the 5. That piece of wood is in play and right in front of the 2-pin. Kevin trying to see if he can get by. I don't know if he can. I don't believe so. And maybe it wasn't there anyway. So 2 more open boxes. Oh my. Paul Berger has just been unstoppable on lane 32. It's incredible. He has, with this spare now, 10 spares in 12 boxes, or rather 10 marks in 12 boxes on lane 32. However, he's only 1 for 11 here on lane 31. And the drought continues, although he gave it a heck of a try. The 4 horsemen plus the 7. Paul takes the 10, and he's added a dozen pins more to his lead in the first 4 boxes here in Game 3. Paul Berger leading by 29 with 6 boxes to go on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. We'll be back. Kevin Davis in severe need of some offense here. And he will take a 9-drop. Almost got them all. And the 5-pin for the spare, his first mark here in the 3rd game. Had another couple of opportunities that he hasn't been able to take advantage of. Kevin clearing a loose ball out of lane 32 before he continues. And big ball there, that should go, it does, strike on spare. Oh, Kevin needed that. Feeling better about things now. Threw 2 great balls in that sequence. Spare on strike. This has been Paul's lane, so I'd give him a pretty good chance at making the 1, 3, and 7. Oh, yeah. Played it on the inside. Would have made it without the wood. And a 9-drop for Paul on the spare. That will maintain his lead in the 20s with 4 boxes to go, and he puts another mark up there. Kevin Davis is going to have to come up with something pretty special here. He's working on a strike. He would really benefit from a double here. has not thrown one in 3 weeks, and he doesn't throw one now. And pulls it left. If he's had a problem, it's been pulling the ball to the left. $9. A reminder that Candlepin Stars and Strikes is brought to you in part by Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. Come to Salem and save. Route 97, Main Street, Salem, New Hampshire. Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. And Kevin takes the spare in the 8th. Trying to keep a little heat on, but he will probably need strikes when he comes up for his final 2. Paul Berger working on a spare, and he's been practically perfect here on lane 32, and, well, with the wood, he may have a chance here, too, on the 7 and 10. No. That's only the 3rd time today that Paul has failed to mark here on lane 32. And his lead will be 30 going to the final 3 boxes. He is opposite a spare. But even if he were to leave an open frame here in the 8th, Kevin Davis will need probably a double strike in order to force Paul to do something. Spread eagle. And a nice 10 for Paul Berger. Works out the spread eagle. So a 30-pin lead, less whatever Kevin puts on this mark. If it were a strike, things could get interesting. It is not. Just 3. $6. And that has been kind of the symbol for Kevin today. That is his 4th $6. And a big strike in the 10th. But even 3 in a row right now would not be enough. Kevin just reached back and fired that one and put it right in the pocket. A little frustration maybe building up. $13 marks for Kevin Davis, an 8 on the strike, and a 119 for a 3-game total of 368. And Kevin congratulates Paul Berger, and the match is already over. Paul can roll these final 2 for his score purposes. He has a chance to hit 400 if he were to put a mark up, and a big mark. Oh, there's a spare. He needs 134 for 400. So it will be Paul Berger and Tim Lipke in the finals next week. Oh, big 9. There's 400 right there with a box to go, or rather with 1 ball to go. A fill ball on this spare. 134 plus a ball. And Paul will take 9 on the final ball of the day. 143 for Paul Berger and a 407. Congratulations again from Kevin Davis, and Paul Berger advances to the finals. Did I say 407? It's 409 for Paul Berger. He wins it. We'll be back with the bonus ball contest and set you up for next week's championship match when we return.
And welcome back to Park Place Lanes. The semifinal match in the books. Paul Berger will advance to the finals next week to face Tim Lipke. But before we talk about that, let's have a nice round of applause for Kevin Davis, who won 2 weeks in a row here with some fine bowling in his own right, and he'll take home the third place prize money. Step right in here, Kevin, $250. And I have a feeling that you knew last week that it would take a big score to beat Paul Berger, and you were right. It generally takes about a 400.
Yeah, I wanted that 429 back. No, he's a tough bowler. I went up to the Worlds. I've seen him up there, and we bowled 30-some-odd strings, and he was always right there. I knew it was going to be a big one. I didn't have it. I didn't throw it.
Yeah, it just seemed like having a little trouble finding the range today. Just a little off target here and there.
I had a hard time on 31 because the ball return comes out a little further, so I had to move over compared to the spot here and there, and that's what my ball was going to the right.
Well, it seemed like actually you were both having trouble on lane 31. Paul did
the whole thing over there. What do you have,
and you too. We're going to have the whole match over there.
Yeah, it might have been 275 to 270.
Well, congratulations, Kevin. Terrific triple 2 weeks ago, 429, and still time to make it to the Tournament of Champions this year, so hopefully see you again.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Davis from Pembroke, New Hampshire, our runner-up today, and now Paul Berger will try our bonus ball contest. We've got $70 in the kitty today. Looking for a match. And this may be bad news for Paul. This may be real bad news for Paul. A 4, but you never know. We had a 5. I pulled a 5 guess a couple of weeks ago, so you never know. You never know. It just may happen. But not this time. Catherine Arsenault from Lawrence, Mass. Catherine Arsenault, her guess was 7. And so, Catherine, you'll be receiving a consolation gift from the Winds of New England and the NHCBA, and that means we'll increase the jackpot to $80 next week, and you will be here next week, sir. You did it all on one lane, really, today. Were you aware of the difference between, you had almost all of your marks on one lane?
Absolutely not. I wasn't the least bit aware of it. I know that it seemed like I always couldn't get 2 in a row, so there had to be something now that I think of it.
It seemed like lane 32, boy, you hit all 5 of your strikes on lane 32, and I believe it was every mark but 2 that you had on lane 30. Well, that's probably a good thing that you didn't notice it.
Yeah, I know I'll need them next week when I bowl Tim. So.
Well, yeah, I have a feeling you could probably say the same thing now that Kevin said last week. You may need another one of these 400s next week.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. And the winner, of course, next week gets into the Tournament of Champions, so a lot at stake. It'll be a lot of fun.
Sure will.
We'll be looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
All right, Paul. Congratulations. Thanks very much. Paul gets into the finals, and so that leaves us with our top 2 seeds as we check our current ladder. You see that these are the 2 guys who finished with the top 2 roll-off scores when the roll-off for this series was held up at Meredith Lanes in Meredith, New Hampshire. Tim Lipke getting the best of that, with a 654 to Paul Berger's 631. But, of course, those scores will be thrown out next week when we do it for 3 games here on Stars and Strikes to determine the championship. Now, of course, the winner of that match will get into this group, the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions ladder, for later on in the spring. And, of course, leading that group right now, Bob Kelly with a 410. Joe Ashline also over 400. Rich Clark and Dan Broder are also safely in. So either Tim Lipke or Paul Berger will join that group next week. And we hope that you will join us next week for that championship match here on Stars and Strikes. Don't forget, Saturday at noon, we will have Candlepin Skins from the Londonderry Bowling Center. And next Sunday at noon, back here at Park Place Lanes for Tim Lipke against Paul Berger. Until then, for Dan Murphy, who is off once again this week and will rejoin us in a couple of weeks on Sunday, Doug Brown for the whole crew. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.